guess it's time for another Tales from the Discount Bin. Today I'm going to be talking about Black Cat #1. Yeah, well, it's Felicia Hardy Black Cat #1. This was published in, I guess, 1994 in cover date of July, so it probably came out, a few months before that. But this was Black Cat's first solo miniseries, her first solo book at all. Up until this point, she had been a supporting character. Now, if you don't know, Black Cat was invented by Marv Wolfman to be a foil for Spider-Man. And for years she was. She originally was introduced in Amazing Spider-Man 194 back in 1979. And she would appear in Marvel Team Up, and she pretty much circled the Spider-Man universe for the most part. Didn't get too far away from that. Prior to this series, actually, she was featured. The last time she was seen was in Web of Spider-Man number 113. So that's kind of where she, where she circles where you would find Black Cat back in pretty much the 80s through the 90s, was as a supporting character for Spider-Man. So anyways, let's crack this baby open and take a look at it. I believe it was a 4-issue miniseries. It doesn't say it's a miniseries on the cover, but maybe they just cut it early. I don't know. But anyways, it's a fabulous first issue of Felicia Hardy Black Cat. Let's crack this baby open and see what's going on. Well, there she is. There's Black Cat. She's this is a nice splash page to open the book with. I noticed one thing, not to be crude. She's wearing her skin-tight outfit, and that's nice, but I believe other artists drew her showing a lot more cleavage. In this illustration, she's pretty covered. She's showing these crazy large shoulders here, but for the most part, this is actually more of a modest Black Cat than we had seen in years past. So she's out on the street. Let's see what's going on. She says, "Just my luck. I spend all night in the cold looking for the only man I can confide in about my relationship problems. And I finally discover," we'll turn the page in a second, but it refers to the fact over here that Felicia Hardy is alone again. And it says, see Spectacular Spider-Man 210. We're going to find out she's had some relationships changing later in the book, so I guess Spectacular Spider-Man 210 is where it happened. So, just my luck. I finally discover, and he's busy. So she was looking for Spider-Man, who's in an action scene against this guy here. Not that this was the shocker. I didn't realize it until I dug into it. This is Cardiac. It's a character called Cardiac. I don't know much about him. He was introduced in Amazing Spider-Man 342 back in 1990, so he's only about 4 years old at this point, so he's a relatively new character at this point. It turns out he was actually in another series going on at the same time. It was called Night Watch. He had just appeared in Night Watch number 3 before this book, and ironically enough, Night Watch was also written by Terry Kavanagh and Joe Cavalieri, the guys that wrote this book. So that's kind of where he comes from. He's still around the Marvel Universe. I think last time he was seen was in Black Panther World of Wakanda number 6. That was published in 2017. I don't know much about that, but if you want to know what happens to Cardiac, that's a current appearance for him. So they're battling. Oh, I should mention, the pencils are by Andrew Wildman. Andrew Wildman was mostly known, for me at least, as he did the art for Transformers and later G.I. Joe. But I was such a fan of his work, we actually had him do a variant cover for Deep Space Tragedy. This is Andrew Wildman, the guy that drew this book, drew this great cover for us. We'll talk more about that later, because we got a comic to go through. So Cardiac and Spider-Man are going at it. This is about some kind of pharmaceutical stealing or pharmaceutical company that Cardiac wants to take out. Obviously must have been the hot topic of the day. Felicia shows up and joins the fight. So it's pretty much your typical comic book action fight with lots of exposition as the characters are talking while they're fighting. Hey, look at this. The Star Trek The Next Generation SNES game. I had this. This was very hard to play. Not going to lie. I don't think I ever finished it. So back to the action. So it just continues on. Looks like Felicia smashes this guy's head into a brick wall. Apparently he's pretty tough because he bounces up from that. The fight continues. Again, a lot of discussions about pharmaceutical companies, a lot of sarcastic remarks from Spider-Man. Ultimately, let's see what happens. Ooh, hey, Pizza Hut's got superhero comics. I think this might have expired. So anyways, Cardiac escapes. Felicia goes after him. It doesn't work well. She comes back down because he set the air conditioner to explode. It's one of those super deadly air conditioners that if they explode, it'll destroy the whole building and everybody will die. But don't worry, Spider-Man's trying to web it up, but Felicia knows what wire to cut. So she cuts the wire and everybody's safe. Whew, that was an exciting way to start a book. We're 11 pages in, And it was a good little action sequence at the beginning, well illustrated by Andrew Wildman. It's very much in that 90s style of comics. Spider-Man's got the giant eyes and all that. But it's enjoyable. It's a fun little action sequence. So here we are. They're discussing. Spider-Man's got a lot going on. He says, besides, I have so many problems these days. I can barely cope. And it says, for the inside scoop on Spidey's hardship, check out all his monthly titles. So that's going on. Problems, blah, blah, blah. So she tries to talk to him. And he goes, you probably came out tonight looking for someone to tell your problems to. So I'm here. But then she changes. She starts talking about the bounty. Cardiac probably's got a bounty on his head. Now I've lost it. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, money, 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 make a buck. And he just swings away. He was in a mood, and now he feels justifies. You haven't let me down, Cat. You're like everybody else. So clearly there's something going on with money in Spidey's life, too. Isn't there always? But while Felicia's on the roof, having her moment, up comes behind her this guy. This guy is named Paul Proust. And it turns out he actually also appeared with Cardiac in the previous issue of Night Watch, which was number 3. So clearly there's some kind of overarching story going on here that, I don't know, I guess we just don't know about. So he makes her an offer. There's this, she's talking about there's some kind of medicine or something. Here we go, right here. I need you to recover a missing asset called Chimera. Isn't that what it's called in like every movie? The same dangerous resource that Cardiac was after tonight. So he wants her to go on a mission. He's going to pay her a lot of money to go steal this back from, what's this other company? From his rival, Cobalt Chemicals. Again, a lot of stuff on pharmaceuticals in this book. Must have been a hot topic in 1994 in the media. So we jump ahead. Felicia's in her apartment. She was just talking to Mary Jane and Peter, and they just left. And she's like, that's clearly somebody had recently had a breakup when they wrote this. Well, that's about right. Couples, they think their problems are the only ones that matter. When you're single again, they don't want to know about you. Like breaking up, is it contagious or something? So she calls Paul Proust or whatever at the chemical company and demands triple the fee up front. He agrees to it, and she's off on her mission. Let's skip ahead here and get to the mission. Lots of ads for video games back in the day. So let's see. Felicia sneaks onto a boat. She uses this helicopter and sneaks onto a boat that I guess belongs to Cobalt Chemicals, or maybe is where the asset, quote unquote, is. So she jumps in that. This is a great shot. This kind of reminds me of Andrew Wildman's work when he was on Transformers, and they had that team of kind of superhumans led by what was her name? Circuit Breaker, who was trying to stop the Transformers. This kind of gives me that vibe. It's a great action scene. I mean, she's really jumping off the page here. So she's jumping in the action, crawling through elevator shafts, catches up to these guards, busting, bum bum bum, crack some skulls, break some bones, gets the information she wants. She's checking the camera here, and something happens. This dude phases through the wall. He's a new character, a brand new character introduced in this issue. He says, "Freeze, Cat. You're on private property." And Cobalt didn't hire Phase. Obviously, he's talking about himself in the third person. Phase and his mechabytes to let trespassers run free. Whoa, some guy phasing through the wall. Some days it just doesn't pay to be me. To be continued. That kind of sums up the book. I skipped a few things, a little relationship issues with where she's talking to Peter and Mary J. Turns out she was dating Flash Thompson, and recently he broke up with her. Weird, didn't know that happened. Again, I wasn't really into the comics that much in the 90s. But so this was, like I said, Felicia's, or Black Cat's first miniseries. It was, again, written by these guys, Terry Kavanagh and Joe Cavallari, and illustrated by Andrew Wildman. This has not been collected in a trade paperback or really reprinted anywhere in the United States. So if you want to read this story, unfortunately, you're going to have to go do it like I do and do some discount bin diving. I think I paid maybe 50 cents to $1 for each issue of this series. I actually have the whole series. I haven't read it yet. But it's off to a good start. It's nothing great. It's nothing spectacular. Like I said, clearly pharmaceuticals were an issue back in the day, but it's a fun read. This sequence with Cardiac in the beginning is really kind of fun. It's 90s comics. There's no denying that. But it's fun. I really enjoyed it. Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, is still bouncing around the Marvel Universe. In fact, I think this month or last month, she appeared in Deadpool 603. So if you want to catch up with her, that's where you go. These guys, Terry Kavanaugh or Joe Kavanaugh and Terry Kavanaugh and Joe Cavallari, they, like I said, were working on this book called Night Watch at the time. It ran for, I think, 12 or 13 issues. And Cardiac was apparently a major character in that. That's about it for the book. Like I said, it's not been collected. If you want to get a copy of it, you're going to have to discount bin dive with me. Again, the illustrations were by Andrew Wildman, who did this great cover for us. Deep Space Strategy Issue 1. If this is not available on the Cosmic shop on the website, I'm going to make sure I get it up this week. So if you want to get a copy of this, head over to cosmictimes.net. In the next few days, I'll have it up there for grabs. Also, I'll tell you, I've been reading a lot of books lately. I read Man of Steel number 6. I read Hawkman number 1, and I read Plastic Man number 1. Three recent DC comics. I'll tell you, two were really good. One was trash. It was just a bad comic. I don't know. I guess the writer must have had an off day that day, or the editor wasn't paying attention. But it really wasn't good. I'll just have to guess which one it was. Anyways, so I read 2 good books recently, Hawkman and Man of Steel. I'll talk about those in the near future. And again, that was it for today's Tales from the Discount Bin. Felicia Hardy Black Cat number 1. Like I said, you can't get a reprint of it, so you're going to have to dig in the discount bins. That's about it for now. Until next time, stay cosmic.